So good afternoon, everyone, and thank you all for joining us. My name is Srdjan Popovic. I am a fellow Rollins graduate, class of 2022. During my time here at Rollins, I was in the Global Health Department, and following my graduation at Rollins, I now work for the Rhode Island Department of Health. At the Rhode Island Department of Health, I am the disparity specialist for our maternal and child health program. And today I'll be serving as your host for the kickoff series of Life After Rollins. This session will be on resources for job seekers. So Life After Rollins is a life-oriented series that was created by the Rollins School of Public Health alumni board, and for specifically the recent graduate subcommittee, which I'm a member of alongside Elena Jordanov, as well as Trish Miller. So this series is, although it was intended with recent graduates and early career professionals in mind, we welcome everyone to join us and help everyone in seeking either tools or information that can help them succeed both in their lives and their careers. Throughout this series, we'll cover multiple topics, including career development. We'll also cover salary negotiation, topics like smart investing, student loan repayment, and many other topics. So today, as I mentioned earlier, we'll be discussing job search and career transitions, and we'll be offering you some tools and resources to help you navigate your search. So before we get started, I just wanted to introduce our speaker and then also go through a couple of housekeeping items. So today's session will be recorded, and we will share the recording with all registrants. And it will also be posted to the Rollins website later for viewing. We welcome all of your questions during the session. Feel free to type any of your sessions into the Q&A, and we will go over the questions as we go along and save some of them for the end. And then please also keep your microphone on mute unless otherwise, and then we invite you all for the Q&A discussion at the end. So now, without further ado, I will introduce our speaker, Srdjan Popovic. Srdjan is the Executive Director for Professional Development and Career Planning at Rollins School of Public Health. He's led the career advising team at Emory's continuing education program and held several leadership positions within healthcare, IT, and hospitality. He holds a master's in organizational leadership and nearly a dozen certifications and numerous trainings on career assessment credentials. Srdjan is passionate about helping people discover and pursue their calling so that they can realize their full potential and contribute to different causes that make a difference on the world stage. And we're delighted to have him here today to lead our session.
Hi, thank you so much for the introduction. Hello, alumni friends. So good to be with all of you this afternoon. I hope that this session we're going to do, that there is going to be some useful, beneficial information for everyone. I will try to cut a lot of fluff. I know it's a lunch hour. I know that some folks will be just in the listening mode. So I'm going to cut straight into some of these topics, and I welcome your engagement and questions. And I'm going to share. I was initially thinking, should I just go, just me presenting like this instead of PowerPoint slides? But I said, okay, people love visuals, so let's go with some visuals. And Haita, if you don't mind, can you tell me that we are in a full screen mode? Everybody can see it.
We are in full screen mode.
Perfect. Thank you for that. So resources for job seekers. The agenda for today for us is reactive and proactive job search strategies. And if there is nothing else that sticks with all of you from today's session, I really hope that it does this part, which I will spend most of my time on. Then we have some of the networking and follow-up tips, navigating job transitions and managing career and life transitions. And as I go through these segments, again, my hope is that I can cover all of these topics. So I'll try to give you as much as I can without fluff. But I will be weaving some of the career data insights for best practices as I go through these different agenda items. And some of you submitted in your pre-registration form some of the questions, and I'm marking them as yellow, which will indicate to me as I go through this presentation those areas that you wanted to learn more. And lastly, we will definitely allow the time for some Q&A, hopefully some 15 to 20 minutes towards the end. With that being said, let's go. Let's dive in. Proactive versus reactive. So public health practitioners, we want to be on that proactive side, and I'm approaching this job search strategy in that way. Because there was years back, I heard a line from one of my either partners or colleagues that said, "You want to be line up for the job before the job gets posted." What does that even mean? How do we do that? Well, hopefully we demystify and we show some of the approaches how to actually accomplish this through this presentation. Success rates when it comes to referrals and actual job application, just submitting your application online. What I would like to hear from you who are on this call, if you can type in the chat, what do you think that the success rate from a referral is to actually getting a job? Just write that percentage. Just give me the number in the chat. And Haita, if you don't mind, just tell me what the responses are.
Okay, we have a guess of 80%, 30%. It depends on the referral, 65%, a guess of 60%, and a guess of 50%.
Okay. Now, what we're going to do is, can you tell me as well, what do you think that the success rate for a regular application for a job is in getting hired? Let's see those responses. Oh, and I can see them here now. So 20, 10, 5, 10, 2%. Okay, so thank you for the participation. This is some of the data points, and I will show several of these slides. It's some of the insights, the data analysis that was done for these specific areas. When we talk about the referral versus the regular application, so here you can see that there is a 20% success rate for those candidates who get a referral versus a 1.25% in actually submitting the application and applying for the job. So referrals are very powerful way of landing your job and getting into an organizations. And there are different ways how we can do that. A lot of organizations, I would say most organizations, they have different referral programs that they encourage their existing employees to refer folks, and they provide different bonuses for that. But before we go more into that proactive approach and the referral, let's talk about the reactive. So in reactive mode, we are applying for jobs that are being posted online, whichever website we use, which I owe you for this session, and you asked me to provide some of the websites where you can find these jobs. I will start with some of the internal ones. This session, though, being kind of slightly targeted to the recent alums, also expands more than that. But for the recent alums, you are familiar with our 1220 system. And I can tell you firsthand that, especially during these current times, where I'm in a process of hiring our next director of partnerships who will lead that area, I'm approving a lot of these jobs that they come in, and a lot of them are applicable to our alumni. So I'm just reminding you, encouraging you not to forget about 1220. It's still very applicable to you. And this is where the customized jobs for our public health students are. Besides 1220, there's another website that many of our alums, they're just not that familiar with. And it's not a fancy website, but it is beneficial. It is beneficial because organizations around the country as well as internationally. They post on this site that is housed here at Rollins, and it's called Public Health Employment Connection. Some of the other websites that I want to mention, especially for the recent alums, would be the CDC fellowships and training opportunities. You can find it at cdc.gov/fellowships. And then, of course, the ORISE fellowships with CDC. LinkedIn. We'll talk more about LinkedIn during this presentation. Definitely a robust network where you can find a lot of jobs on there. And this is just a reminder. I'm not going to call you out. I'm just going to expect that you are part of the Rollins School of Public Health Alumni Association group on LinkedIn. Michelle and her team, they do a great job with the postings there and bringing to life different opportunities. Many times, Michelle and I, we just cross-pollinate different opportunities that she would send some of those to me to promote on our side here, and then as well, I would say some of those alumni opportunities that she then posts in the alumni group. So I think that's a no-brainer just to stay in the loops on some of the announcements and updates on there. Then we have the publichealthcareers.org and publichealthjobs.org. Another two great websites. We're primarily focused on the state, local government opportunities within the public health. Lastly, Indeed is one of those big websites, and I have here the individual organizations that can be a part of the tailored approach. If there are specific organizations that you're interested in working for, then I would suggest that you check out their career websites and you can. The beautiful thing about all of these websites, or at least most of them, you can set different alerts to notify you about the jobs that come. One thing to mention, the follow-up, it more is related that if you're in the reactive mode and you see the job online, you apply for it, I would then encourage you to find out who are the stakeholders. Can you target those, identify whether to your connections or directly yourself, individuals within that organization or the department unit, ideally to the hiring manager, where you can send a note and inform that you're very interested in the role that you're applying for and that you actually applied. Most recently, as we've been looking for our next director of partnerships, it just showed to me again how from different channels folks come interested into positions, and they use different connection channels. So we would have in our immediate department as well as the Emory wide different partners that they just reach out to us and say, hey, we know the candidate, or the candidate reached out to them to ask if they know a connection. And it always kind of separates you slightly because there is a slight referral thing, or at least to consider for the interview. So those are just a couple of 2 cents that I want to mention related to the follow-up. Now, as you're applying in the reactive mode, here are some additional data points on the hiring truths that may be beneficial to you. So this one may come as a surprise. It's definitely a surprise for our current Rollins students, and some of them, they may be joining today's webinar. But it may also come as a surprise to you as recent alums. So what this slide is showing you, that the 50% match is kind of like that sweet spot when it comes to the qualifications, requirements that you're meeting when you're applying for the job. It's a sweet spot for actually being invited to the interview. This can actually be very confusing. I didn't want to ask you, what do you think? And so that you can tell me in the chat, what do you think that the percentage of the requirements that someone needs to have in order to go for the application and submit the application and to be considered? This is what the data is telling us. And one of the big reasons to justify this is the hiring managers, they don't want to bring somebody who is 100% qualified. Where is their opportunity for growth? How are they going to develop? What is there going to be the job retention? Because if you're already bringing everything to the table, what am I going to give you else that will keep you engaged and stay in the job? So I hope that this is an encouragement for all of you when you're reviewing those job descriptions, and that you don't judge yourself a lot because you are not meeting 70, 80, 100% of the qualifications for that job. If you meet 50%, just go for it. Then the timing of application. There's another graph to show you how the timing of application reflects with the actual interview rate. What this is telling us, the sooner you apply, especially within the first 48 to 72 hours, the higher of the chance you have for the interview. Organizations are moving very fast. So now there is a caveat to this, and for some of the, definitely in the fellowship world and some of the other areas, there is a, unless you see on the job application that there is a window, the deadline that until they're collecting applications, and then there is a review afterwards, then it's fine. I would still encourage you to apply the sooner than later, but that would be the exception. For most of these other jobs, when there is no specific window of time of application collection, you want to get in there as soon as possible because organizations and hiring managers are moving quickly. And another one, another myth buster, one pager versus a two-pager resume. You can see that across the board, from the entry level to mid-level to managerial level, that the two-page resume is a preference. And I understand that this may come as a surprise to some of you, but just wanted to show you some of these data points in our career world and when some of these analyses were done so that I can spread more light in some of these areas. Okay, so that being said, now we're closing the reactive approach. We want to move into proactive. And in one of the pre-registration questions that you asked me, okay, can you talk about a proactive approach? So
Srdjan, just quickly,
go ahead.
sorry. So you mentioned follow-up in the reactive stage. Do you mind talking a little bit about if someone is following up, how often or like how spaced out they should have their follow-ups?
After the actual job application, I would say one is definitely a given that you want to reach out and identify your channel for this. If I would give, I think that's the main signal. And for this opportunity, this or at least this stage of your job after you submitted the application, that one I would be, if we are adding another follow-up, that may be just one more. That may be just more that you can, because if you, and here's when I would do it. I would do it if you didn't hear any acknowledgement after the first, you did it the first time. If you did, and they tell you, thank you very much, we are considering you, we will take your application under the consideration. But actually, even then, I think with the acknowledgement or not, if you don't hear anything and they didn't inform you about the time frame that is within the next week or so, then I would follow up within a week, and that would be it. I would really not push them any more than that.
Thank you for answering that. And then we did have one other quick question. Is cold messaging via LinkedIn appropriate or is it preferred to use email?
Oh, we'll talk about it in this section. So I hope that this section sheds some light on it, because I really I'm going to leverage a lot of LinkedIn for this proactive approach. And Haita, is that it for now, or is there another one?
Um, is our two-page resumes preferred, even in consulting and private sectors?
Unless specified in your application that they want a one-pager, you should go with a two-pager. If they specify that's what they want, just give them what they are asking. And here in our world, as we work with students and alumni, we work with a lot of consulting agencies as well, and we see the finalists that come into those stages, and it's the two-pager is just a normal thing. Again, unless it is specified for a one-pager, then you would honor that. All right, so in the proactive stage, my dear fellow public health practitioners who love to be on the proactive side, this is very powerful way for so many reasons and benefits that I'm going to list here for you, and why this is important to do this, even if you're not currently in your job search mode or the transition mode. I call this as career chats. The technical term in the career world is informational interviews. So for these career chats, the benefits of you connecting to speak with different folks, and we'll talk about the strategy using LinkedIn, how to reach out to these folks. And that's just one of the strategies that you can use, but I find it very powerful. What these career chats, what they're helping you is you have the opportunity to get a distilled knowledge from practitioners who have been doing the work that you are interested in or that you want to be in. And they've been doing this for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And it's an opportunity really to get this amazing, valuable insights for your career and professional development in a short amount of time when you meet with them. So years of experience. Also, you can learn about the job that they're doing. If you identify that this is an individual who is doing the work that you're interested in, you can hear it directly from them. You can learn about unit, department, organizational insights, which later they can become very beneficial for the interview that comes after. Let's say that you end up interviewing sometime after these conversations, you have your notes, you heard about the challenges or the initiatives, the efforts that they're doing, and you can get prepared and talk about those things in the interview. You can learn about industry trends from them. You can also ask them to get connected with somebody else. So let's say you scheduled this first career chat with somebody and the conversation went okay and you learned something, but you feel that maybe it would be, you're looking to get more, and you can ask this individual, well, based on a little that you know of me, is there somebody that you would recommend for me to connect with? And you'll be surprised how people are open to this. People are, as we talk about this strategy and the outreach, I would really hope that you remember two things, especially in this field, in the field of public health, and adding the layer, if you make the outreach to folks who share the same affiliation with you, whether that's Rollins or other institution, is that people genuinely want to help, and you're asking them for a little of their time, which they will really talk about themselves. But you can ask to be connected to someone else. And ultimately, there is a job referral, there is a place in that. But the way we're approaching these career chats, we're not going into them to ask for a job referral and for them to get you a job or to recommend you. You're getting in there to really build a relationship with someone. You can also, these folks can serve as your sounding board. You may have a challenge that you're dealing with in your current role, and you're asking for their advice with their years of experience, their ideas and suggestions. Ultimately, the result, one of the most beautiful things that can come out of these career chats is your tribe of mentors. And I cannot stress enough how important in our career and professional development it is to have these mentors. And I just feel personally very humbled that over the years to have had some of those, because who I am today, it's really, there are these pieces of these folks who are with me, but because we are looking to stand on the shoulders of the giants, right? And we are looking to humbly get all the knowledge and expertise and learn from them, from their experiences. So that's really the ideal scenario, that an outcome out of these career chats. Now, I mentioned that I will talk about LinkedIn, and just very briefly, I want to explain, so why would we leverage LinkedIn? I mean, these are just some of the data points. I'm going to let them speak for themselves. And this was even from 2 years ago. These stats are just growing. This is the largest professional network out there. There should not be any hesitancy for you to connect with as many people on LinkedIn as possible. So it's definitely not like other social media. It is the hub. and you should be connecting with people. And the more diverse folks that you connect with on LinkedIn, keep in mind that they are bringing with themselves their communities, so which will really diversify and expose you to these different connection and their connections. And it means just and by the way, there is a study that has done on that, the effect of these weak ties, so quote, when we connect with people on LinkedIn, and how they're bringing their communities into it, and the correlation of that with the job search and job success. So the bottom line is you are encouraged to connect as much as possible on LinkedIn. After those stats, now really how we're going to leverage this, there is something, two areas, the alumni tab and the people tab, which I'll do a quick demo just to show how we navigate this and how to utilize it in our outreach for LinkedIn. This is tied to the question earlier, the cold outreach via LinkedIn. So what I would suggest for you to do here is to review alumni job experiences and pick those with jobs that intrigue you. Then you'll send them a connection request and add a note and make it clear why you're reaching out. And keep in mind that your messaging needs to be strategic. You know, people get scammed, but always remember that alumni, they do want to help. And here's just a very, very brief kind of, because you have 200 characters, just an example of how you can make a quick outreach. But of course, use your voice, the way you communicate, and to send that note to this alum that you're reaching out. In this case, what you're portraying is a flattery, because you're acknowledging their impressive experience. You are acknowledging the shared affiliation. You're promising not to waste their time. And next week is always better than this week because people are busy. Now, Haita, I'll take a moment, and even though this is coming in one of the next slides, that besides reaching out via LinkedIn, there are resources out there. One of them is hunter.io, the website, which can give you the domain of people's emails within organizations. So most commonly, once you know the domain, the first part of the email will be first name dot last name, whatever that is, at troa.org or CDC, so, or it would be the first initial and then the last name. Hunter.io is one resource that can always help you with that, to give you the exact domain. And guess what? People are checking their work emails daily. So you can use that to make an outreach to them. And of course, keep in mind that people's reality of things, not everybody is on LinkedIn all the time, every day, and people are dealing with lives and all of that. So don't get disappointed if you don't hear initially. But certainly I would encourage you this strategy. Now the demo, because I need to show you and Haita, if you can confirm with me that you can see my LinkedIn on the browser.
So we can see.
Perfect. Okay, so let's go into the university first. Haita, what was your undergrad institution?
Providence College.
Providence College. Does this look about right?
Yes.
Okay. So, Haita, the reason why I picked Providence College, because I wanted to remind you all that, of course, you're Rollins alums, and you can go and find Rollins alums. In this case, you would have to go to Emory University, and I can show that briefly too. But I want to remind you that you have a shared affiliation, not just here with Rollins, but if you went to a different undergrad institution, this is a shared affiliation for you. So you see the tabs here. Here's the alumni tab. In this case for Providence College, we have about 45,000 alumni. And here you can filter them based on where they work, where they live, what they do, what they're skilled at, what they studied. Once you apply your filters, it will show you your pool. And then you can review some of those folks, and whoever grabs your interest, then you can make that outreach. So as I mentioned, for Rollins, we are housed under Emory, and thankfully it's also it's easy to filter that because you can apply. In this case, we have almost 92,000 where they work. Here is the second largest employer here, Center for Disease Control and Prevention, Emory Healthcare. What they studied, you can find public health and filter them that way. So equivalently, Haita, give me an organization,
We can
company.
go with the Rhode Island Department of Health.
Hmm. All right, Rhode Island Department of Health. It's the same principle. This time it's not alumni, it's the people tab. You have it here. In this case, it is a shorter, smaller. It's a smaller number, so we have 559 of those, but you have different filters to apply and find the folks that you would like to connect and speak with. That would be my quick LinkedIn demo for you and how to leverage this piece.
I
Now
think
I'm
that
going
was
to,
great. I didn't even know that you could use that tool, so I think that's a great way to search.
oh, thank you, Haita. It's LinkedIn is really they have developed a lot in this area and they keep developing things, they keep tweaking. I mean, it's a fast growing platform, but to me, Haita, what's really mind blowing is after that we live in it during the time where you have the professionals from all of these organizations in the palm of your hand. You can find them, you can make that outreach. And request the time to meet with them. By the way, everything that I'm sharing with you, I've over the years I've been doing that myself, and trust me, it does work. Because again, people do want to help, and when you're respectful, you ask for 10 to 15 minutes of their time. You go into that, and then you just have to be ready, which is, I think, one of my next things that I want to mention. So here in the next steps of the proactive approach, reach out to at least 5 alumni for those career conversations. Pick a diverse sample, track what you learn, ask great questions. These are just some of the questions, that you can, I mean, the scope of the questions that is out there. It's really, so you have to tailor and be strategic which questions and how many you're able to ask realistically with the time that you have. But these are just some of them on the slide for you. But if you're even struggling with questions, just you can ask ChatGPT, provide me the list of informational interview questions for the position X, Y, and Z in the organization that, if, and you'll get plenty of ideas. But definitely come prepared because you asked for their time. You want to be respectful of their time. And another thing that I want to share on that note is it's amazing how when you initially ask for about 10 or 15 minutes of their time, you reach that time and you ask, well, you just mentioned that you want to be respectful and because of the time you asked, and if they're okay to continue, and most of the cases will say, yes, I'm happy to continue, we can stay for another 5, 10, 15 minutes, so that you can continue the conversation. I already mentioned that you can ask to be connected to somebody else. Then you follow up after this, express gratitude, ask to connect again. And if you feel that during that time together, that you had a really good connection with this person, it's totally okay to ask to connect again. And as you go, then you can just nurture that relationship. I mean, if this is a person that you established a good connection, you want to, because you're in the driver, you're in the mentee seat, you are driving that relationship. Conduct a search for every school you attended. I already talked about it, and hunter.io, again, is a resource that you can use to get their actual work emails. Okay, so that was the first part of the reactive and proactive job strategies. We're at the 12:36. I'm gonna go for some more. Let's see, to lightly go over some of these areas of networking and follow-up tips. When it comes to networking, and if you find yourself in different avenues or opportunities, events to network, and especially if you are on the introverted side of things, I would my two things to really kind of emphasize is really to listen to really be focused, present during that time that you are not just with them thinking what you're going to say next, but you're really listening what they're saying and building off of that. And just to let your curiosity lead the conversation. What is it truly when you meet this person? What do you want to know about them based on if they tell you the position or the organization they're in? What would you like? So let that curiosity just lead you through the conversation. Follow up intentional and timely. I've always been about intentionality. The more and intentionality for me goes with authenticity. So be your authentic self in your follow up. And if you take some of the notes, which I encourage you when you meet folks, then you share what resonated with you and how much you appreciated for them what they shared during the time, that opportunity where you network with them. Periodic check-in. This is, again, you're in the driver's seat. Is this connection that you've established, is this somebody that really it makes sense for you to nurture and establish that time that's appropriate to do that with them? Because the relationship ideally should not be a one way, it should be both ways. If there are resources that you either know of or that you suddenly learn about, but that kind of ties with a conversation that you had with these folks, just share them. We said, hey, we talked about this, and I wanted to share you. Here's an article on this that I find fascinating, and maybe you'll find it helpful as well. So that you are also, because it can go a long way. It just shows that you are not there in this relationship for your benefit, that you really want to make it mutually beneficial. What is it that I bring to the table? Interview follow-up was just mine. I wanted to briefly mention this as I recently experienced it, again. And if you're interviewing for the positions, let's just make sure that there is a follow-up note, an intentional, timely and an intentional note. You want to do that within the first 24 hours after the interview. And just wanted to mention that because, again, I recently had some of the candidates, and there is no follow-up. But if you can showcase your intentionality and what you learned during that time and what you're bringing to the table, that it can go a long way. It just shows your professional approach to this process. Navigating job transitions. This section deals more, and I understand that we're moving through different sections as I brainstorm initially with our alumni partners and what they would like to see during this session. Then I incorporated some of these areas. They're a little bit different from, because we were kind of tapping into different areas here, but this one was specifically related to how do you advance and make that job transition when you're with the organization. And some of the best practices that I wanted to share with you, it starts with that relationship with your supervisor. If you're looking to continue and grow within the organization you're in, this relationship is really critical, and building a solid so it just goes a long way if you invest the time in some of the best practices for that. Feedback is I really hope that you are getting a feedback from your supervisor. If not, you can request it. Just check in with them and say, well, how am I doing? How is the work? Where can I be better? Where can I improve from your perspective? Because and if you're not getting that feedback, which then just ask for it. Many organizations, they have mid-year and annual feedback, but unfortunately, some of them, they just don't. It's not a part of the regular practice. I have this philosophy around shielding your supervisor, and I see this going both ways. When you do the work that you do, you want to really protect because your supervisor will be handling a lot of different areas, but you want to protect them with the details and some of the challenges, and take the ownership and take care of the business. And they will appreciate that, just like it is their duty to shield you from a lot of the political, perhaps, stuff that's going on within the organizations, that so that they can allow you, that you focus on your job. I think overall, being dependent, being consistent, and being kind, those are the three big areas that really, from a supervisor perspective, that we want to see in our colleague, direct report employee. So those are just some of the insight I'm sharing from my perspective. Building relationships with the department. If you're looking to make inroads or transition within either the department or the organization, then let's start working on those relationships. Let's invite colleagues for let's schedule a monthly lunch. Say, hey, I want to learn more about what's going on in your world, and just as I'm learning more about the organization and the different work here, and it's a healthy way. Many organizations, they actually proactively encourage this. And bosses, they encourage this. Yes, let's get it scheduled so that you can learn what's going on. Some organizations are even they're as progressive that they would this is part of their DNA, that they, in a sense, they know that in your current role you're going to be for 2 to 3 years, and then let's figure out where your talents and passions and interests are going next, so that they can give you the opportunity for that. DISC assessment, it goes into the assessment piece that I have on the next slide, which I have found that this assessment is quite powerful for the workplace, understanding how we work with different styles, because we have our own style, but also how we navigate the workplace conflict and the different styles they approach it differently. So basically, it's learning the language of your colleagues. If some of the organizations where you're in, if there is a little bit of professional development funds, if they're not already using DISC, and of course, if they are, just ask them so that you can do it. Ideally, you want to do this with your immediate colleagues, with your boss, with some of your team members, so that you can learn each other's styles and have the dialogue around it. But if there is no current practice for that, you can ask if there are some of the professional development funds. The DISC itself is not that expensive. It's between $50 and $100. So just another resource that I'm suggesting here as you're working on your relationship building and communication related to your job transition. Managing career and life transitions. Haita, Michelle, alumni friends, I think we're going to skip these for now, because with the time that we have, as that brings me to the last slide of some of the questions that you posed in the pre-registration form. And they are, how do I stay positive, not get burnt out from job hunt? There are two phases of this, or two scenarios. One is you're currently not in a job and you're in a full-time job mode. And the other one is you're currently in a job, but then you're looking for the job. Although I would probably assume that this question was posed for somebody who is not currently in the job and they're looking for a job. Let's first acknowledge it. Being in the job market and looking for a job, it's not fun. It's just not. So I remember that, and of course, we work with a lot of students and alumni and help them in the job strategies. And of course, we invite you to engage with us, as we have career coaches and one-on-one career coaching, and that's all great. I think you should leverage that resource. We have to develop a plan of action that's sustainable and that makes sense. So my 2 cents on this: how do you not get burnt out? You should treat the job search just like a regular job, that you have the time during the day that you dedicate to these different tasks. And now I would, just as a reminder, there is the reactive approach, there is the proactive approach. What does the plan on a daily, weekly basis look like for the reactive, proactive? Let's build that plan. Let's treat it like a job, so that at the end of each day in that area, that you've done your best. You've done, and these are then things outside of your control. But at least those applications that you submitted, you were as intentional as possible. And I would rather do you 5 applications a week, intentional ones, than do 20, 30 of those where you're just sending your resume without any customizing it. You're just sending it out. So intentionality again. But also we need to identify for your mental well-being, what are those things that bring joy every day, and just allocate the time. So again, we're treating this like a job, and I'm going to give it my best, and I have no impact. I'm at least find the peace of doing these actions on a daily basis, and then it's let them decide. But you've done your part, and you're moving to those other things that bring joy. So my 2 cents on the on this first question. Non-traditional career options with MPH. It's a broad field. A lot to say on that. I mean, the possibilities are really, I get fascinated from time to time as I meet some of our alums who just do such different things. I mean, the scope is from the non-traditional that I've seen alums in banking, in finance, in the tech world, medical devices. I mean, it's just all over. It's really all over. So I, for the sake of this time, I'm just say I think you should let your passion and interest drive you, but ultimately it boils down to your skills. Because what we think that our public health students and alumni, when they go out of this program, they have the skills that cross different industry sector. And actually, our graduate employment data tells us that, because there are all these different sectors where our alumni are employed, which, by the way, you can review that information. It's publicly available on our site. You can see it in 1220 for more details as well. Best resources to use when researching average salary range of a position. Would encourage, whenever you are at that point, that you use 2 to 3 of these sites. Some of them to mention would be Glassdoor, salary.com, and PayScale. Those are the 3 sites that you can consider for this. And then the last one that came in a previous session was the cover letter help, but because it's broad, I'm just gonna, please connect with one of our career coaches and we can help you with that. So I'm at 12:49. We promised 10 to 15 minutes. There is 11 minutes. Let's do the Q&A. And Haita, if we have some of the questions, if you don't mind, just bringing them in, happy to chat.
So some of the questions we have related to being offered an interview and submitting the application and making sure that you stand out. So it'll be like a 2-part question. What tips do you have to make yourself stand out from the crowd and be more likely to be offered an interview? And then also, with the rise of things like AI systems that screen applications, how can you ensure that your application stands out and makes it through?
Yes, and to me, this would be the intentionality piece. So to actually get the interview and to stand out, as we need to take a look at the job description and identify what are those skills and requirements that are needed in this job. And then we need to inject as much of that. We need to speak that language because, one, we need to bypass the ATS, applicant tracking system, for our resume to be picked up by the machine, to be filtered to the machine, getting to a first human who will then review those. So you need to speak the language of that position in your resume. By the way, one of our systems that we offer here is VMOC Resume Review. One of the latest modules that we received from VMOC this fall was the Resume Optimizer. Maybe some of you are familiar with the jobscan.com resource. You have a couple of free scans that you can use through this website. What it does, it cross-references job description with your resume, and it tells you where you're lacking, what's not the language that you're speaking in, what are the skills needed. Now we can do that same with VMOC. It's just that we have many more updates and attempts that our students and alumni can use. So to stand out, first, you really need to get to the interview, we need to nail that resume component down. If there is a cover letter that's required for a position, or if even it's suggested, whenever there is even a mention, whether it's required or suggested, the cover letter is your opportunity to really be as intentional, and it goes a long way. Now, that's immediate application. If we can leverage some of our tribe connections, referral into this process to give a 2 cents on your candidacy, that's great. Haita, what was the piece about AI? If you can repeat one more time.
So with more AI systems being used to screen applications, how can you ensure that your application makes it through?
Right. So I think I talked about it. And in this case, um, this has been going on for a long time. The applicant tracking system and the filtering through it, it was a necessity because it's humanly impossible to review 150 to 200 resumes for one job from a recruiter's perspective. And then anytime these recruiters, they have about 20 to 30 positions to fill. So again, it's not realistic. They have to use different filters for this. And so AI in this aspect has been there for quite some time.
We have another question in the chat from Angela. Great presentation. Thank you for all the information. When you mentioned a two-letter resume, what does that mean? Skills and experience covering 2 pages with publications on additional pages, or limiting skills and experience to 1 page with publications on a second.
Angela, thank you for the kind words. I'm glad you enjoyed the presentation. And for the two, it's a two, not a two-letter, it's a 2-page resume. I think we're talking about this the same thing. So the not there is no rule here that the second page needs to be publications. If you have publications and they're applicable for the role that you're applying for, that's great. And actually, for some of those roles, where publications need to be emphasized, you're stepping more than into a CV format, and that goes beyond 2 pages. The 2-page resume we were talking about just applying to the broad spectrum of just the regular jobs. They are not academic, they are not government, because sometimes, and you will have this indicated in the application, if there is a CV, it's just an over-encompassing document of experiences, publications, leadership, volunteer, all of it. So that would be my answer to that question.
Thank you. I'm just scrolling through to see if there are any other questions. In the meantime, I don't know if you wanted to maybe briefly talk about pivoting careers. I think we skipped over that slide just for the sake of time.
Mhm.
I'm not
I
seeing any
was
questions in the chat.
I think I was at a managing career and life transitions. That
Yes,
was
that's
and I can happy to say a little bit. This one for me goes deep because it's this is for the folks who are at that moment where they're really and we all go through this through different phases of life. You reach a point where you're either starting a family or there is some life event, or you just have arrived to the point where you're really reconsidering different priorities. So what I encourage in at this moment is the pausing and self-reflection. And there are different assessments that can be done in this regard. It's almost like we go on autopilot with things, with our jobs, with the things that we do, but how often do we just really pause and self-reflect where we are and is this direction that we are going? So to me, this is a really important and big area. And what I was encouraging for folks who are in that state, that first that they do some assessments to understand where they stand on things. So some of the assessments, one specifically to career related, is FAST IDP. It's a recently developed tool by some of the public health for experts. It was a combination of academic and the career folks. They developed this assessment that maps your interests and the type of work that you do, and it spins you like the list of jobs and the different jobs within that area, cross-referencing the United States Bureau of Labor and Statistics. So that's more kind of to tell you, okay, based on your preferences, work preferences, and the things that you like to, here's the cluster of jobs that may be the most applicable. So that's one of the assessments, but there are different other assessments that you can do in this kind of self-exploration or pausing when you're evaluating things. So I wanted to first focus on that, and a couple of books that I had suggested here was Designing Your Life and Designing Your Work Life. I think they're really beautiful and insightful. I think it was the Stanford guys who developed them initially, and they developed the entire curriculum around it. But it's a for those of you who are in that phase that you're just wondering, okay, where do I go next? I would encourage giving a read to some of these books and to really go deeper into where you are in life and what is really the type of work that you want to do. And I've heard this from alumni before when it comes to the type of work. Some of them, they started initially in consulting, and it's great money wise and all that, but they realize several years down the road, I just want a slower pace now. I was good then, and the money is not as important as it was. So you have to take those things into consideration, and it's be kind to yourself. Be kind because I'm sorry, I was just having a brain moment because wanted to tell you that the career paths and the career journey is not linear. It's very much curvy. Currently, every human is averaging about 12 jobs per career. That's going to increase as the lifespan increases in the years to come. So understand that although it may be a personal struggle, like I really, I'm currently not happy with my job. What I'm encouraging you that if you put action and some of these strategies that we talked about especially during the first part of this presentation, action in this and consistency in these areas is really what makes the difference and what helps us get to the place where we want to be. All of you, unless we currently have some of the current students, you have gone through the Rollins education. You have achieved that landmark, and that speaks about you, your actions and your character and your ambition. So it is possible, but for everything, it needs work and it needs that action. And that would be, I'm realizing that would be just my last message to leave you all with. So be kind to yourself and understand there is action and work that needs to happen, and believe that you have it. You still do, because you've done all of these things in the past.
Thank you so much, Srdjan, for leading us through the session and giving us so much great information and resources. And thank you for everyone who attended today. We were so glad to have you here, and we hope to see you in some of our future sessions that are a part of this series. And feel free to reach out with any questions that you may have. I can probably put my email in the chat as well, if anybody has any follow-up questions. But thank you so much, everybody, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.